Okay, well, I'm going to get us started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the Monadnock Sustainability Roundtable. We have a lineup of speakers from 5 different organizations and groups who are going to talk about some of the sustainability work that's happening in the Monadnock region. And then later on in the event, you'll have a chance to be separated into breakout groups and have a conversation with some of the other attendees, as well as ask questions to our speakers. So this event was organized by 2 different organizations. We have the Alliance for Youth Climate Leadership and the Monadnock Sustainability Hub. You'll hear more about each of those in a second, but first, I want all of you to have a chance to introduce yourselves if you want to. So in the chat, go ahead and type in your name, type where you are from, what town you're from, and also what sustainability work or organizations you're a part of in the region or outside of the region. And if you want to, type your email so that way anyone who meets you here tonight can go ahead and get in contact with you later, but that part is optional. So while I'm talking, feel free to go ahead and have a little bit of a side conversation in the chat. So I'll first start off by talking about the hub real quick. For those of you who do not recognize my voice or have not met me before, hello, I'm Annie. I am the program manager of the Monadnock Sustainability Hub. You'll see my email there if you need to get in touch with me later. So the Hub is a nonprofit based here in the Monadnock region, and we work with our communities to help them lower their greenhouse gas emissions and transition to renewable energy, clean energy. And we do that in a variety of different ways. So you'll see a few of our programs here. They're really focused on 3 main areas. We have clean energy, clean transportation, and education and outreach. I will highlight just a few of these, but in the meeting of time, I do encourage you to, after this event, go ahead and look at our website to learn more. So we have, let's see, we have community power. That is a really big initiative that we're help supporting statewide and here in the Monadnock region. Community power is a legislation that allows towns to take control of their energy supply. You've probably heard a little bit about it. We also have our famous Drive Electric Expos, where we showcase electric vehicles and whatnot. So yeah, in the order of time, I'm just going to move along a little bit. And I'm going to pass it on to Kristen from the Alliance.
Hello. So yeah, I'm Kristen Thompson from the Alliance for Youth Climate Leadership. And the Alliance is a hub organization based out of Antioch University, New England. And run by graduate students, our mission is to support the next generation of climate advocates to lead, collaborate, and innovate for a just, resilient, and thriving planet. And the Alliance has 2 primary focus areas: school-based and community-based climate action. We've hosted online educational events such as Solve Climate by 2030, and we work with students and young people on the projects they want to make happen, such as climate podcasts or weekly student protests. And we primarily work with young people ages 5 to 30 and those who want to support them. And if you have ideas or interests and want to collaborate with us, please reach out.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. So we'll dive right into our roundtable speakers. First, we have Carol and Bob from the Peterborough Renewable Energy Planning Team. So I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Annie. I'm Bob Herring-Smith on the Peterborough Renewable Energy Planning Team, or the PREP team. I'm here to report a happy ending to something you heard about a year ago, the Peterborough Energy Action Group, which was gearing up at that point for a campaign to persuade Peterborough to go to 100% renewable energy. And that succeeded. And so all of those people, or almost all those people, there are about 7 to 10 in the core group for PEA, became part of the PREP team. And in addition, we've attracted about another 10 volunteers. So we have a group of 18 or so who are working on making this happen. So next slide, please, Annie. So here's the warrant that passed, and you can see the group there. Carol and I are in there somewhere.
Yeah.
In the picture. We're going to get all of our electricity in town. This is people, residences, businesses, the town itself from renewable energy by 2030, everything else by 2050. We are tasked, the prep team that is tasked with creating the initial plan by the end of next year and doing that in a very inclusive way. And we're working hard on that. We're intending to both improve energy efficiency and, of course, expand the use of renewable energy. But this is not a legal commitment on the part of the people in the town. So we have to be very persuasive. And to do that, we are getting a lot of help, I'm very happy to say. So next slide, Annie. In fact, all along, we've had quite a bit of help. This whole effort began with the Sierra Club's Ready for 100 campaign. Their staff provided a lot of support to us as we were getting PEA going and helped a lot with figuring out how to organize, how to involve the community. And so we're very grateful to them. And perhaps even more to staff in Hanover and Keene. They've made this same commitment and they're ahead of us on the timeline. So they were helpful not only in doing presentation for the citizens of Peterborough, so they would have some sense of what they were getting into if they agreed to this commitment, but also worked with members of PEA and now with PREP to help in understanding what the options were and some ideas on how to organize, how to plan, and how to conduct this planning process. The Peterborough Town Library has been a huge asset to us. They've been very supportive, despite the fact that during this time they've been undergoing a complete renovation themselves. So they were in temporary quarters, but the librarians were great with publicity about PEA and PREP events, and were another way in which the small group of people who are in PEA itself were able to leverage some of the resources in the community at large. Of course, we started with a huge advantage. We're in Peterborough, and the town of Peterborough has created a very favorable environment for the work we've been doing because they've been working on reducing their own reliance on fossil fuels for quite some time. It was probably 6 years ago, they put in a megawatt solar array, and they've done a lot to reduce reliance on fossil fuels in the buildings and in transportation for the town. They've also been providing us with advice and data about current energy use in town, and we found the recycling center to be an invaluable place to reach citizens face to face, and pretty well count on them being citizens of Peterborough, since that's our target audience. So for more details on how we are reaching out to the town of Peterborough, I will pass you on to Carol.
Change to the next slide, please. Yeah. So I'm happy to be on the PREP team, and it was passed by the town last May by 74%. So we feel that we have a mandate, and the town has sanctioned that we divide up into various groups. There are actually 5 subgroups. One is on community power that you mentioned, Annie, and then the others are more unofficial groups, just that we don't have to advertise that we're meeting. And one is about research, finding out what other people have done, as in Keene and in Hanover, because they're the closest towns to us that have done that. And we've had speakers to let us know what they've done. Hanover is also a small town, but it's a university town. So they're both slightly different from us, but we've learned a lot from them. Then there's the second group is the baseline data group in Peterborough, which researches what people actually have. I mean, we want to change, but in order to know where people are starting from, we have to find out exactly how many people use oil, how many people use gas. So they're working on that. And also how much people are changing over as we're working with them. We have to have a plan by next December 2022. The third group is the communications group, which keeps channels open with the town and with the residents. And we already have a relationship with a local newspaper, the Ledger Transcript, and they're going to print a monthly article that we write about our progress. And the fourth group, which I'm on, is the community input group. So that's getting residents in small groups and asking them questions about how they foresee the future, the transition, what they're worried about, what they feel positive about. And actually we had one today already at noon, but we have them at the Peterborough Library, and it's a very conducive environment. So the next talks are November 29th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m.
Next slide, Annie.
Next slide, thank you. As you can see. And Wednesday, December 8th from 7 to 8 p.m. And our website is prepnewhampshirenh.org. So you can sign up if you live in Peterborough. No, you can come anyway, but it's about Peterborough. You can sign up there. It's very easy to do. And that's it.
Great, thank you so much, Carol and Bob.
So our next presentation is from Elm City Compost, a business startup working to increase composting in the Keene community through providing accessible composting services to residences and businesses, as well as through educating the community on the benefits of composting, including reducing methane emissions as a contribution to climate mitigation.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I am the marketing and media manager, and this is Alex.
This is us. The two of us plus one more, we are Elm City Compost Initiative, and we are working on increasing sustainability in this area.
Yes.
Next slide.
Our presentation is titled Compost Community in Collaboration. We will be discussing the history of our business, 3 key benefits of composting, and our dreams for the future of our company within Keene to make the community more sustainable and collaborative. A little bit about us. Elm City Compost started in the summer of 2018. Co-founders Albert Diamond and Kira Wadsworth brought the first business of this kind to the city of Keene. We are a small grassroots company with a mission to collect and divert all food and organic waste from businesses and residents to create a more sustainable city. We serve almost 200 residential customers and 14 Keene area businesses. We can change this slide. So you already met Alex and I, but we wanted to take a moment to introduce our one of our co-founders and owner, Albert Diamond. He's the first picture. We can change the slide.
So we want to outline 3 key benefits, but first I just want to talk about this awesome closed loop idea, dream. If you compost at home, then you get the gist of it. You're eating food that came from the earth. And then what do you do when you're done with it? Well, a lot of the times it goes into a landfill, and we are here to show you that you can do more with it. In the right circumstances, it can be turned back into alignment for soil in order to grow more food for us, for other animals, for the world. So yeah, the 3 key benefits that we'd like to highlight are beginning with methane reduction. So we'll start there with the next slide. Yeah. Methane is so hot right now. Oh my gosh. So carbon dioxide is something that we've all been talking about as the #1 greenhouse gas, but actually methane is creating a lot more heat in the atmosphere, and it is produced in massive amounts in a landfill environment. If we were to compost that alternatively, it would not happen because there's aeration, there's air, there's oxygen, and those microbes do not exist with methane. So yeah, composting is a great way to turn it back into soil without creating lots of greenhouse gas emissions. And next slide. So yeah, methane can be used for energy, of course, but it has to come from a capped landfill. And that's a whole heck of a lot of work to extract and get. So in the meantime, let's turn our organic waste into soil and then, yeah, see what we can do with it. Next slide, please. One of the things that Sarah and I were talking about is like, okay, so there's a million benefits to composting. What are we going to narrow this down to? And we came across one statistic that was talking about loss of topsoil. Topsoil is the first 5 to 10 inches of soil on the earth. And with conventional agriculture practices of plowing up the earth, adding back in supplements and, you know, chemical fertilizers and whatnot, we have to put synthetics back onto the earth in order to grow the food that we need. But we could, in fact, recycle the food that we're not using anymore and create great soil amendment. So a third of the topsoil has been lost due to conventional agriculture. We can return that, and it has a lot of benefits. So, next. Some of these benefits include water storage in times of drought. It's great to have compost by your side because it's going to hold onto the water so much better than just straight up soil and soil amendments, such as just like, you know, the classic NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium mixture. Carbon capture and storage. So compost is literally capturing carbon, capturing CO2 and putting it back into the earth, because the materials that we layer on top of each other to create compost have so much carbon in them. So when we return that back to earth, we are sucking that from that part of the cycle and putting it back down underground. Biological function and diversity. Well, I mean, you see it with humans. The more diversity we get, the more productivity we get. So compost offers a diverse amount of food, vital nutrients for micro and nano organisms in the soil. And when you have all of that life in an environment, it will benefit the plants and make them more resilient and resistant to disease, to inclement, you know, climate events, things. The weather is wonky these days. I am a gardener and I experienced extreme flooding this year, and last year I experienced extreme drought, and having compost as a buffer will help immensely. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to Sarah with community.
Hi, the last benefit we want to discuss is what we like to call a compost culture. One of the benefits of composting, more so community compost, is that it creates a culture shift. We aren't just encouraging people to compost, but to be more sustainable and mindful to our planet, of our waste systems, our food systems, and so much more. When it comes to sustainable actions such as composting, they are not usually the only action a person takes. Usually sustainable actions come in pairs or multiples because they are so rewarding. So we encourage our customers, and then they encourage their friends and their families, and we will create an intentional, impactful, mindful community. Next slide. We are on the dreams portion of our presentation, our dreams for the future in Keene as a city. So our first dream is compost compensation. We really hope to get to the point as a business where we can be donating finished compost to community gardens, to school gardens, and so much more. You can take it away with our second dream, Alex.
Oh yeah, compost consultation. Right now we're collecting food scraps to take to a commercial facility. So it's a big time operation, right? It's not at home organic, like very small scale composting. I would love, and I've talked to Sarah about it too, I would love to work with residents in the area and help them to set up their own backyard composting. You can create your own cocktail of soil, all with the right tools. And once you get the gist of it, it's just a really beautiful experience. And I think that every garden, whether you're growing food, flowers, or just grass, will benefit from Compost Edition. Do you want to talk about commercial or?
I can start it and then we can just go back and forth. So our biggest dream right now actually is to get a compost facility at the Keene transfer station. We would save a lot of fossil fuels not driving to Brattleboro, and we think it would encourage Keene residents to be more invested in our business and in compost, right? Because it would boost the Keene economy with creating jobs right here in Keene, and it would be easier for residents to sign up and everything. Do you have anything to add, Alex?
Oh, I'm just in total agreement. I would love to see a commercial facility closer to home. I do love using the Brattleboro facility. It's great. It's a beautiful drive, but it is a long one. So it would be great to move on here. Next slide.
Thank you so much. We can keep in touch through our website, our email, or our social media, which you can see on the screen. Thank you so much for having us, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to turn over to Community Garden Connections, a local organization that partners with schools, social service agencies, and other local organizations to provide technical and educational support to a growing network of local community gardens to build community and climate resilience.
Hi, everybody. My name's Emma, and I'm here with Paige, and we're here with Community Garden Connections to talk a little bit about food security for community resilience. Our website and email are on this slide, but I'll also add them to the chat after our presentation is done. Next slide, please. So as I said, I'm Emma. I'm the Community Garden Connections co-coordinator with a lot of other beautiful, lovely people.
And I am Paige. I am a volunteer at the Westmoreland Garden Project.
Next slide, please. So as Kristen touched on a little bit, Community Garden Connections is an organization that officially began in 2011, but emerged through many collaborations between Antioch students, faculty, and staff, and so many other community collaborators that built local capacity and continue to build local capacity to grow food and enhance well-being through engagement in gardening spaces to address the impact of climate change as well as other injustices. We and our collaborators work to create safe spaces for people to be able to get outside and garden, as well as to address food insecurity, which becomes more and more pertinent as climate change is impacting our food systems. Next slide, please. So in that effort, collaboration is so key. And we hope that throughout this whole presentation, you keep in mind that we would love to bring you in any efforts that we currently have and also find other ways. So collaboration is really key. So what brought us to CGC and made us really love it? So we're going to touch on that a little bit.
So I joined personally because I was interested in gardening. I sort of got into it when we were at home during the pandemic. And I lived down the road from the garden. I have my whole life. So I was just interested to see what was going on. And I also wanted the opportunity to participate in something that could benefit the community and that I could learn from. So that's why I joined.
Yeah, and I similarly came to it for a love of gardening and a hope of growing in my knowledge and experiences and skills in gardening. But some things that I grew to really appreciate and brought me even more into the CGC realm was that the organization and these collaborations arose from the Keene's 2007 Climate Resilience Communities Plan and the Vision 2020 Healthiest Communities Plan that were seeking to increase garden infrastructure in the community, which I believe centers food within the story of resiliency in our communities as we address climate change and other injustices. And that is something that I hold very dearly, as food is our connective force. And that has just brought me into the mission even more. I really love that CGC is adaptive to community, and through our partnerships with so many organizations and individuals, that collaborative framework means that we can really address things as they come up and be emergent in all that is really challenging, but also really amazing about the food system. Next slide, please. So resilience, we're talking about resilience and how food is connected to that. So the US Climate Resilience Toolkit defines resiliency as the capacity of a community to prevent, withstand, respond to, and recover from a disruption. And climate change, as well as many other impacts on community, are really challenging to deal with. They don't have clear solutions, and you can't have one solution that fits everything. So in community gardening, there's really a lot of ways that we can be adaptive to the specifics of our community and find ways to adapt so that everybody can have access to food. And the really central pillars of CGC are in resiliency and creating opportunities for people to participate in food. Next slide, please. Some of the things that CGC works on for food resiliency include helping organizations around Keene and beyond to build and maintain community garden plots at locations such as the Keene Senior Center and some schools such as Franklin School, and collaborating with those partners is really central to also supporting community efforts towards food security. Another example of that is at the Keene Public Library's free seed and tool lending library. Also crucial are programs that are about education and supporting community building and student learning, as well as at the Westmoreland Garden Project, which is really awesome because it's what connected Paige and I, is a donation garden for the community kitchen here in Keene. So those are a few of the projects that are what kind of build this system of resiliency for the food system in light of so many impacts of climate change and beyond. Next slide, please. So how do we see community gardens as supporting community resilience? We thought we'd end with just a little tidbit of how we see the community gardens towards this goal.
So from my perspective, I'm seeing it as why community gardens are important for teens and young adults. And I think one of the big reasons for that is because they're welcoming to people of all skill levels. And they really provide an opportunity to learn and ask questions about not only gardening, but also just about sustainability in general and about the community. And personally, one of my favorite parts is that they connect you with people from different backgrounds and perspectives. I've really enjoyed volunteering at the garden, not only because I get to learn about gardening and I get to do gardening, but also because of all the people there and how they have different stories and backgrounds that we get to talk about. So that's really cool for me.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that I've met a few of the people here on this call because of Community Garden Connections, including Paige. So I agree wholeheartedly with that. Some things that I really love and believe in about community gardens towards resilience is that green spaces are so important for social networks, for building our strong social networks so that we can address challenges as they arise in really adaptive ways. They build skills and confidence. I've learned so much from the different types of gardening opportunities, and I hear all the time that people are learning like weird and wacky skills, including about compost and other things. They support mental, physical, and emotional well-being, which is so important in light of any kind of injustice and change. And they support community food security and nutrition, which is so necessary in any time, but especially in one of really uncertain transitions. And in light of that community aspect, please know that you are always welcome in any of the community gardens that CGC collaborates on. And if you have any ideas about future community garden projects, please reach out to us and we would love to collaborate with you and have you in this story of resiliency. So please reach out, and thank you for having us.
Thanks so much, Paige and Emma. Now we're going to move on to the Keen Clean Energy team, and we have April and Carolyn speaking with us tonight.
Well, I'm Carolyn Jones, and I've been with the Keen Clean Energy team since 2017. So we've been working together for almost 5 years. It's the Keen and Clean Energy team is a small group of committed volunteers who have had a big impact on bringing 100% clean energy to our city. Next slide, please. We've made a measurable difference. Here's our success by the numbers. 4+ years working to bring 100% clean energy to Keene. 11 businesses and organizations signed on as supporters. The city councilors voted on for the clean energy resolution 14-1. We've had 22 events, including community forums, workshops, and more. 30+ homes and buildings powered by the sun are in our virtual solar tour. We were the 104th city in the United States to sign and to pass 100% renewable energy resolution, and 11,552 people have signed on to our website, and the website is on this slide. Next slide, please. On January 17th in 2019, Keene, New Hampshire was the 104th city in the country to pass 100% renewable energy resolution. Keene's goal is to use 100% renewable energy for electricity by 2030 and for heating, cooling, and transportation by 2050. The city developed a plan to meet its goals through a transparent and inclusive stakeholder process. And the Clean Energy team is helping every step of the way. Next slide, please. We conducted interviews and focus groups with stakeholders to facilitate important conversations for our community, like the ones we had to inform our residents of our Keene Clean Energy Plan. We engaged residents and allies at community events that celebrate our progress, like our virtual solar tour featuring 30+ buildings powered by the sun. Our goal is to hear from everyone and benefit from their perspectives in bringing clean energy and energy efficiency to our city. Sometimes that means shaping city policy, and other times we just roll up our sleeves and offer practical help, like our free home energy workshops for homeowners. Next slide, please.
And we couldn't have done it without the help of students and youth volunteers. Next slide. Here are some of the amazing accomplishments and contributions students and youth volunteers have made. A high school student moving speech motivated the city council. A graduate student worked with the city to develop our Keene Power Plan website. Geography students used drones to capture aerial photography for our solar tour. Journalism students have written and published success stories that have been published on our website and in our newspaper and in the student newspapers. And students have helped collect feedback from community members on the Clean Power Plan so that we could ensure the perspective and insight of diverse groups, sectors, and backgrounds were taken into consideration. Next slide. Your talents, skills, and passion can make a real-world difference in our community. This is your chance to take local action and to help solve the global climate crisis. Next slide. We wanted to point out some of the benefits that you get by experiencing community activism for young people. Our team offers nearly 100 years of combined experience in community, state, national, and even international politics, advocacy, activism, and communications. We can help mentor you, teach you leadership and organizing skills, and give you the opportunity to apply them in a real world setting. I currently work for an international environmental nonprofit, and I love my job and make a difference every day. And the work that I do in Keene and all the work that I've had as a community activist over the year helped get me to where I am. Next slide. With your help, we can help ensure Keene's future. Next slide. And if every town does their part, our planet's too. And we had this awesome quote from Margaret Mead. Never forget that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Next slide. You can learn more at our website, cleanenergykeene.com. And feel free to DM me if you have any questions or would like to attend an upcoming meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So our final presentation, we're going to hear from the Alliance for Youth Climate Leadership School Engagement Team. And my coworker, Matt Peister, will tell you a little bit about the work some of the students he collaborates with have been doing around climate action and education.
Hello, well, my name is Matt, and I'm going to take the first 15 or so seconds to actually give people a chance to stand up and move for a second, or if you don't want to stand up and move, do a deep breathing exercise to ground yourself. I know Zoom can be kind of long sometimes, so take 15 seconds if you want and just kind of wiggle like a jellyfish or breathe. All right, so we're going to come back together, and as Kristen said, I am from the Alliance for Youth Climate Leadership, and I'm going to, in a second, tell a story, but in order to tell that story, I need to give a little bit of background information about a program called En-ROADS. En-ROADS is a simulation game created by Climate Interactive and MIT, and it's used by the real UN, but it can also be used by a variety of people, including high schoolers. Participants in this role play as UN members, leaders of countries, environmental advocates, oil tycoons, and more as they debate about what solutions to focus on to stop climate change. This program also lets people see the actual calculated temperature change that results from their choices. With the background out of the way, I'll go into the story. So today is the big day. It's presentation day, and I sit around a big wooden table in a carpeted conference room with my coworker, Kristen, and several students from MC Squared, which is a high school in Keene. Amara is one of those students, and she is acting as UN Secretary General Amara. It's taken over a month to get to this point, but Amara is finally leading the project. When I had first pitched the idea to students at MC Squared about a month before, Amara had said she wanted to join, but she had been quiet and unsure and wasn't quite ready to step up to lead the project. There's been a huge change from then to now. Now she is standing up straight, role-playing UN Secretary General Amara, loudly and confidently telling the gathered people about the importance of taking climate action now. With a sudden order of, "Get to work," and a clap, she sets us all into our heated debates about what solutions to focus on and the pros and the cons of each. As they debated, these students' emotions were clear in their voices as they got frustrated with the oil tycoons and their voices would rise, and calmer as we made some concessions toward our overall goal. The En-ROADS program is projected up on the TV, and after a student decides to put a carbon tax in effect, we all get to see how it changes global temperature. Amara is leading us the whole time, jumping in here or there to remind us to work harder and make more change. And time is running short now, though, and we still haven't lowered the global temperature to acceptable levels, so tensions are starting to run high. We're all animatedly talking and we're looking over to check the clock. And when I say we might not have enough time to finish, students respond by asking if they can keep going until we can actually reach our goal. With 5 minutes left, we reach a series of agreements that will limit global temperature rise to acceptable levels by the year 2100, and a cheer goes up from everyone in the room. We have succeeded, and we celebrate with our fearless leader, UN Secretary General Amara, as we finish by signing a pledge to make change now. That was one of several projects with youth where we focus on making local change through education and action. The Alliance for Youth Climate Leadership works to support the next generation of climate advocates to lead, collaborate, and innovate for a just, resilient, and thriving planet. We have seen how important youth can be in making changes to their community, like we saw today with Paige. And we want to support them as they do so. We do that by working with youth who are building sustainable and local projects that they can lead for their community. We also do guest lectures, we offer internships for students, provide resources and mentorships to eco clubs, connect local organizations to youth or vice versa, and host sustainability related events in the community like this one today. After working with students, I always ask them to reflect upon their climate action with me, and their answers typically fall within several categories. I'm gonna highlight 3 of those. If you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. First, students responded that they did not want to just learn about climate action and climate solutions from a textbook or a guest lecture. They wanted to actually take action. Not just learn, take action. A second thing they mentioned was that when they do take action, they want to do so with their friends. And developmentally, this portion of people's lives is usually dominated by the importance of social networks. That's totally normal. Working with their friends and having fun during the work was critical. Lastly, specifically when I talked to Amara and I asked, what was the most useful thing I did for you? She did not mention all the planning, rescheduling, education, and hours of prep work that I did. No, she said that she said that we would consistently express belief in her when we would say, the work to make this is hard. Like public speaking is hard for everyone. It's not just hard for you, but we know that you can do it. In other words, the thing that Amara found most helpful was that we expressed belief in her abilities while also pushing her to go farther. Can you go to the next slide, please?
I think this is it. Yeah.
Maybe just back to the last one.
My apologies if there was another one that I missed in there.
It's all good. So I want youth to be standing confidently like Amara was as she led the mock UN. I want more youth to be doing that. And I know that youth can lead the charge toward sustainability in the future, but I also know the value of supporting them to lead today. Perhaps one day Amara will be the real UN Secretary General, but for today, she is still powerful and an important part of the fight against climate change as a high schooler working in her local community. So please reach out to me or reach out to my organization if you are a young person who wants to work on a sustainable project or have us visit your classroom. Or if you're an organization reach out to us if you want to find ways to collaborate with us or youth in the future. If you want to hear about challenges and beauties of working with youth, or if you just have any questions or thoughts about what we do. I appreciate you taking the time to hear my story, and thank you again.
So thank you so much for attending this year's Monadnock Sustainability Roundtable. And we're so excited to continue to foster these connections beyond this event. If you want to get involved with anything that was mentioned here tonight, or with anyone you connected with in breakout rooms, we're happy to facilitate those connections. Also, after tonight, you'll be receiving a follow-up email with resources to get involved in climate action in the Monadnock region. And I'd like to highlight that some of these organizations that we're going to be sharing with you include youth volunteers in their work. And finally, the Alliance for Youth Climate Leadership is currently working on a project to collect climate stories from youth and young adults. And through sharing these stories, we seek to inspire and connect young people working to build a better climate future. And that opportunity will be included in a resource document in our follow-up email. You can also reach out to us through our email or website to learn more about that project. Thank you again for participating in this evening's event, and I hope you all have a good night.